you ever had your back go out? Sometimes it's just a little bit off and things feel mostly okay, but not quite right. Sometimes you're in so much pain you can't even like breathe and move, right? In either case, right, regardless of severity, usually when that happens, it's because something is out of alignment. And when we go to the chiropractor, it helps us go back into alignment. And this is a really interesting word, and it's come into our normal everyday speech so much lately. I hear it everywhere, and it's interesting. Maybe I'm what's the word? Keyed into it because it's my word for the year, so it's popping up everywhere because I need to be working on this. But boy, did I learn a lot in the last couple months about it, and that's really what I want to chat about today as we are thinking out loud about alignment. If we haven't met, I'm Kris. I'm a certified high performance coach, and I work with small business owners and founders who are in a transition period in their life and help them make sure that they can reach their new level of success, whatever that might look like for them, without sacrificing the things that matter most. So let's talk about alignment and what it feels like when we're out of alignment and how do we get back into alignment, and really why does any of this matter for our life and our business. So I realized in the last 6 to 8 weeks that I was really feeling out of alignment with my business. And as a result of it, I just wasn't showing up. I wasn't doing these lives. I haven't been posting things on social media. If you follow my LinkedIn, I really haven't been posting at all much lately. And I noticed that the reason that I stopped posting was because I knew something was off. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I didn't want to keep putting more out that didn't feel right. And so I really took some time and did some work to figure out what was off. And I noticed, among other things, that when I was talking to my friends about coaching and who I was working with and who I wanted to be working with and what I was doing, what I was talking about wasn't the same as what my website says and what the marketing says. And it was one of those little things that it was a little signpost along the way. And I think that's usually how we notice when we're out of alignment. I don't think it's a big thing. I don't think most of the time, hopefully, most of the time we're not waking up with so much pain in our back that we just can't move. Hopefully we're noticing little bits as they go. And that's really what was happening for me. I think I listened to very good advice about really getting to know who I wanted to be talking to in my marketing content. And I think I took it too far. I got it really, really polished. And I could tell you everything about this person. I know them really, really well because it's me, not very long ago, that it was based on. And then as I started, doing these lives, I felt over polished. I was really proud of myself because I was doing it every week and I was keeping a commitment. But I felt like it didn't always feel like me, and it didn't always feel like it was going as deep as my conversations with my friends. And that's really where I wanted this to be going. And so I really took a look at how that happened, and I really think it's because the people that I work with are people in transition. And the people that I was talking to were people who were in a very specific type of transition. And I'm happy to still work with that. And I do think I have valuable insight because it's where I was not very long ago, in that space of coming out of survival mode. But when I think about the people who have actually been my clients and who actually are currently my clients, and the people that I get so excited about helping, they're really just people in transition. They may or may not have a sense of, oh, the world got smaller and now I need to figure out how to open up again. I mean, that's certainly one piece, but I feel like I cut off way too much. And it felt so out of sync between how I really see it and what I was actually presenting that I didn't want to present it anymore. And so That's kind of personally why today I'm thinking out loud about alignment, because I feel like I'm just recently now coming back into it. And I think, the chiropractor is one great example of it. I think it is important, if you're looking at your marketing, to be aligned with what people want and what people need. My cousin Margot teaches people how to write copy, and the way she explained it to me, I thought was really brilliant. It's not about changing what you're marketing. It's about being clear enough that people know whether or not it's what they want. So if you had, and her example was running shoes versus, I don't know, she used some brand name of fancy shoes you'd wear with a ballroom gown, or you'd wear if you were Carrie Bradford, but I'm not that person, so I don't know the name of those shoes. But let's just say designer fashion shoes. And the goal is, if I have a shoe store that specializes in designer shoes, I don't want somebody coming in looking for Nike, because they won't be happy. So in my marketing material, I have to know who I'm talking to, so that what I'm saying is, hey, you want Nikes, come here. If you want those other really nice fancy shoes that you have to clunk around on, you're going to go somewhere else. So it isn't so much about convincing someone or finding the magic words. It's really just learning how to talk about who you are and what you do. And again, we need to know who that is, right? So alignment, in addition to our the physical example, or that the marketing example is being aligned with what I have with what you need. And then when it's aligned, we're a match, right? And so this is a really good example as well. This would be out of alignment. This is aligned, right? So this could be a potential client and me that is or isn't a match, or this could be how I see myself and how I present myself to the world that we want to have aligned, right? It could be what I'm asking for from my team and what I'm giving them time to do, or what systems I have built to allow them to do it. What I say matters in my business, and where we put our focus and our time. Those are the kinds of things that when they're out of alignment, it doesn't work as well. I think on a personal, like in terms of life in general, one of the places where we notice when we're out of alignment most easily is our values versus our actions. My grandmother was born in I can do this math, like in the 20s, I think, something like that, right? So she was born in the 20s on the East Coast. I love the Taylor Sheridan shows, and we just recently watched 1929, and I realized how much closer to 1888 that was than 1988 in a lot of ways, including math. They still had horse-drawn wagons in parts of the country. They didn't have cars everywhere. Not everybody had indoor plumbing. I never really thought about that, about how different my life was from my grandmother's. I knew it was different, but my grandmother was born way before me, obviously. And she was raised in a different world. And she used to say some things that just were no longer politically correct by the time I was old enough to police such things in my late teens and early 20s. And so she would say things, and I would be like, Grandma, you can't say that. It's racist. And her answer would be, no, I'm not racist. I have friends who are from all over. I don't judge people on the color of their skin. And then she'd turn around and she'd say these things that maybe when she was younger were okay to say. I know there are things that I, being past half a century old, sometimes say or think that really are not the way we're supposed to say or think anymore. And I catch myself, and I've learned to adjust. And she was learning to adjust too, in fairness, but it would make me crazy because she's like, no, I'm not racist. Okay, well, what you just said really sounded racist. And so, you can say your one thing, and it was really important to her, right? So our values and our actions have to match. And, another example is most of us, I think, consider ourselves to have pretty good integrity. Integrity is that our words and our actions match. So again, that's an alignment, right? Our words and our deeds match. It's a very important value for a lot of my clients. And occasionally we come across scenarios where maybe they're not acting with perfect integrity all the time and they don't realize it. What's one example? So I was helping somebody as a bookkeeper for a while, and the way she spoke to me and the way she spoke to other people were not the same. Fortunately, I'm the one she was nicer to. And I was always shocked because she is a person who runs a service business. And so she knows you have to show up a certain way in order, and she knows how her clients treat her and whether she likes it or not. And she's very professional. She's very good at what she does. And she's not always nice. And I noticed this because I'm not always nice. Somebody said to me, somebody who knows her as well asked me like what it's like working for her. And I said, well, it's kind of like working for my mother, my grandmother, and me all rolled into one on a really bad day. She's a very nice person, and we're all nice people. And occasionally there's just little things that happen. And, it was very triggery for me from time to time. But again, it's a matter of, are we aligned with do our actions match what we say our values are? And here are some examples. If you say that you value time with your family, do you prioritize your family over work? If you say that you value fitness and health, are you making time to exercise? If you say that you value other people's opinions, do you actually listen? If you say that you are a person of faith, how much and effectively do you live that out? No judgment. These are just questions of whether or not we're aligned with, do our actions in our lives match what we say and what we think about who we are? And it's really, I think these are really important. And it's the little things. It's not, for most of us, when we're out of integrity, are not awful, terrible, cruel human beings. Most of us, when we're out of integrity, it's something small like billing 5 extra minutes because it rounds it up nicely, or showing up late repeatedly for a job because they don't really need me to be there on time. Or showing up late for appointments because you know that the other person's always going to be late. Right? So they're usually little things. And I think part of alignment, one thing to remember, I used to, I don't so much these days, but I used to go to a chiropractor all the time. Like every other week, I think. Because your body doesn't naturally stay perfect. We get out of alignment, we go back into alignment. We get out of alignment, we go back into alignment. Same thing is true with everything we do. None of us are perfect. We go up and down. We have our goods and our bads. And so being aligned and not aligned is not a permanent state. It's really a goal. It's really a guideline. So like I said at the beginning, I brought this up because I realized that personally, I was a little bit out of alignment about my business, and it was keeping me from wanting to talk to people about what I do and keeping me from knowing how I really wanted to help and who I really wanted to help. And a lot of what I do as a coach is helping people gain clarity, and I was lacking this clarity. I mean, think about, as we're talking about alignment, think about what it looks like when your camera is not focused properly. That's out of alignment. Or what I keep seeing in my head is an outline, like a inked outline, and then the image inside of it either being blurred or askew. And so you can't really tell what it is. And so that's another reason that alignment is important, because I think it speaks to clarity. And I think a lot of the exercises that I go through with my clients about clarity really help. You can't be aligned if you don't know what you're aligning with. I want to be better. Better at what? How are you measuring it? You need to be really, really clear. I am this kind of person. These are the things that matter to me. If you don't know those, you can't know whether or not you're living in alignment. And so the first step is really recognizing who it is that we want to be. And so, like I mentioned, I felt like I was really speaking about to a polished version of an ideal client, but it wasn't exactly who I wanted. The other issue I was having is I really felt like there were too many versions of me online. And because of that, I just didn't do anything at all. I started to solve this by making my Instagram and my Facebook private and really just keeping my business on LinkedIn. But even I found on LinkedIn, even knowing I had public and private, knowing that some of the things that I was sharing with my private family were inconsistent with some of the things that I was saying publicly. And I just said that publicly. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes integrity is telling the truth, even when it's embarrassing. And so, I mean, they're not really huge deals, but one thing I used to joke about was that I was Christian on LinkedIn and Jewish everywhere else. And that's not a huge big deal, I suppose. There's one is not better than the other, and both are actually true about me. I'm actually a Messianic Jew, which is a hard thing to say because most non-Messianic Jews, most Jewish people who don't believe in that Jesus is the Messiah, that's what it means to be a Messianic Jew, don't think that I'm Jewish anymore. So I'm not supposed to call myself Jewish because I also believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And I spent a lot of time in church up until this year. Talk about being out of alignment. I spent a lot of time in church. I wore my tie all the time. I had always explaining myself. I was always the token Jew. But I didn't feel comfortable. I wasn't going to go to temple, a regular temple, because my beliefs didn't match. And so it was only recently that I started going to a temple that's a Messianic temple, and I feel much more comfortable there. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to make up excuses. I don't have to apologize. I'm with a bunch of people who believe much more similar things to what I do. Now, no place you go, I don't think any place I go is gonna 100%, everybody's gonna agree with me. I think we can all agree that's probably the state of the world these days. And it's a challenge because people do make assumptions about who you are based on where you meet them. So if you go to a certain type of church, they're going to assume you have these political beliefs. And if you go to a different type of church, they're going to assume you have these political beliefs. And I have come across, both in church and at temple, people who assume I believe everything they do about our religion and everything that they believe about politics. And I guarantee you none of those things are true because I am an eclectic person. And so part of, I think, for me anyway, part of alignment is showing up consistently and feeling safe enough that I am who I am wherever I go. So I am a coach and I have other businesses, and I don't have all the businesses mentioned in my LinkedIn. So when I reach out to people and I say, oh, do you have a LinkedIn profile? I say no, because I'm not talking about coaching. But I do have a LinkedIn profile, and that's interesting things, and it's a good way to connect. And so I'm going to update my LinkedIn profile so that it shows that I do coaching and that I do fractional financial and operations support for businesses. And when my martial arts business program gets revamped, that will be in there too. And yeah, the martial arts and the coaching will have separate websites, and at some point, one of them may have separate social media, but I might be doing the martial arts through other organizations and not marketing it. So it may not need its own presence. I don't know yet. These are the things. But I think these are the things that make me interesting and that make me a good coach, because I'm not in one world. I am in corporate. I am in small business. I am in education, after school world, supporting children, supporting families. I do all of these things. And so I think that it's important that all of these things are reflected. I like the idea of people are more than what we do. I think this was one of the biggest lessons I learned post-concussion. It's been 9 years, y'all. 2 days ago. Monday? Today's Wednesday. Yeah, so Monday was 9 years. I swore I wasn't going to keep track of that. I tell you that every year. But here I am still keeping track. It's been 9 years since that concussion. And one of the first lessons I learned from the concussion is be careful how I define myself, because up until that day, I had defined myself as a martial artist and a speaker and a teacher. And suddenly I could not do any of those things. And I didn't cease to be, I didn't cease to exist, but I didn't know how to define myself anymore because I wasn't capable physically of doing those things. And I think that journey through the liminality of recovering from a concussion is really what led me to become a coach. Because whenever we come into a transition, that is what we go through. We have to go through some period of time of, I'm not this anymore. I'm not quite here yet. I might not even know what this is, but I know this isn't anymore. And there's this space in between where we need to get really, really comfortable and where we find really interesting things about ourselves. And so that is where I'm going. I will continue to be working with people in transition. My website may or may not be changing, may or may not make the pictures on the website match my hair. Hair is temporary. Websites are also temporary, but less so. So we may or may not change that. I think I will be talking more about group coaching coming up. So stay tuned for that if that's something you're interested in. I've been doing a lot of soul searching, and I think group coaching allows for a lot of things. One is its connection, and human connection will never get replaced by AI. I think it's also a way to keep coaching available to people regardless of income level. I think there's a lot more flexibility when in group coaching, pricing wise, and it's a lot more scalable. It gives me the opportunity to work with more people and without it having, overwhelming me time wise. And so I think there's a lot of good reasons for group coaching. And I think that you'll be hearing more about that from me as well. So I know today seems a little different to me. It feels a little different. For one, I'm not using a script. I had talking points to keep me from going completely off the rails, but I'm not using a script, so it feels a little less polished. I hope it feels a little more authentic and not underprepared. And so things are changing, hopefully in a good way. And if anything that I said is aligned with where you are right now and aligned with how you view the world, I'm using that word a lot because that's where we are today. Use the link below and feel free to schedule an alignment call. Yes, that's what I always call it. To get to know each other a little better and learn more about what I do and see whether or not it's something that would be a good fit for the two of us. If that's not where you're at right now, the link to my LinkedIn is also there, and feel free to just follow me and keep up and see where the new content is going. And in the meantime, have a fantastic day and a great rest of your week. Talk to you next week.